Hey guys, hope you guys are doing good. Hope you guys are doing great. Before I jump into this video, I'd like to ask you guys to like, share, and subscribe to this video and do all the YouTube thing that needs to be done. So the video for today is school necessary? I do believe that this is a big question to answer, especially for young people in our days. We see a lot of people who have graduated, who have qualifications, but who are staying at home, who can't sustain themselves, who can't get any jobs. And at the same time, we see a rise in people who might not have gotten the conventional education that we have, which is school, who are thriving in life. And I do believe that the young generation is asking themselves, then is school still necessary? If that's the case, if there are people still making it without having to go through this journey, right? So this is a question a lot of people ask themselves. I've asked myself this question at some point, and I'll try to answer it as much as I can. So to jump to it, I had this question in my first year. So I remember I was studying philosophy, and I got quite frustrated, and I asked myself, why do I have to study this? I got really frustrated, and I started to get angry and started to rethink what it really took, for me to be accepted here. I started to think about all the cross-nighting, right? I started to ask myself all these questions. Why then do they require us to excel in these subjects, only for us to never talk about them, only for us to never discuss them? What was the use for doing the Euclidean geometry? What was the use? Why did I go through so much trouble just to get that and to never discuss them ever again? So I asked myself these questions, and I really wanted a solid answer. And the answers that I found were interesting to me, right? So the first thing I came to realize is that school is not really, the most important thing about school is not the subjects that they teach in school, right? So it's not the maths, it's not the physical sciences, it's not all of these subjects. For me, with what I found, that the most important thing about going to school is the development and the increasing of your capacity, right? So in school, they give you a couple of subjects, they give you work to do, they give you homework to do. You come back and you write your exam. So this is my assessment of it. You go through different grades with different difficulty, and with the workload increasing every time. And what we are supposed to do, especially, or what you're supposed to do if you go into school, is to take this as an opportunity to work on yourself and the capacities that you have, right? And then you do all of that until grade 12. And then what they look at when you are at grade 12 is not that he's really smart in maths or he's really smart in physics. For example, let's say you get 6 distinctions, right? Focusing on universities for now, but I'm going to focus also about life. What the universities usually looked for at that point was not really how smart you are in maths, but they were after the person you had to become to get those 6 distinctions. For most people, right, getting the 6 distinctions is not just a matter of how smart they were, but if you take a closer look behind their lifestyles, the life they had to live at home, the amount of work they had to put in, the amount of discipline they had to have, the time management principles and skills they had to learn over a long period of time, right? So that 12 distinction was not really a measure of how smart they were, but it was a measure of how prepared they were and of how much they've built their capacities. And the reason I learned this, it blew my mind, and I wished I could go back to school so I can work on these principles early on. So why are these principles early on? The thing I have realized really, or I've learned through experience and also seeing some things that happened, is that we don't really lack opportunities, right? And it's a difficult thing to say out loud, especially in the country that we are in, especially in the economy that we're in, especially looking at the fact of how many unemployed people are. And there are many circumstances, and I do believe that what I am going to share is not the only reason why maybe we might lack opportunities, but I believe it's one of the greatest reasons that we lack opportunities. And one of the reasons is that because we haven't taken time to build that capacity to the person we need to become, especially in younger years, or in school rather. So we come out into the world and we look for opportunities, and we look for opportunities um, with a work ethic or with a capacity that is not fit enough to enter into certain spaces, right? So what we do is we take the time, because we don't know much at school at a young age, and we don't really work as hard as we can, and we leave school. Then after we leave school, it's then that we start building our capacities up. It's then when we start building our work ethic up. But it's then also when the opportunities show up and they find us unprepared to move into certain spaces, because we don't really take our time, especially in a young age in school, to build up these capacities, right? To build up this work ethic, to build up time management, to build up discipline, right? So that when we leave school and we have to apply ourselves out there in the world, not just in universities, even with things that are outside of university, you find that we really don't have the capacity to apply ourselves to the level that is demanded of us. One thing I just said, that we don't really lack opportunities, but we lack prepared people who will take the opportunities, right? While on the one side, we have a lot of people, especially as young people, saying that there are no opportunities in this country. You get to learn that there are new millionaires being formed every time, right? And I'm not saying that maybe to say why aren't we becoming millionaires. One of the biggest thing I've learned and I've actually experienced, I'm going to share my story after this, is that one of the biggest problems that people who newly became millionaires, whether through their business or whether through inheritance, a lot of people suffer with finding the right people or finding the right business to invest this money into. You find that, let's say for example, someone just received 10 million, making an example, and then before they start splashing the money around, they want to maybe invest 20% of it, say 2 million, right? And you find that what they really like is to find prepared people to which they can say, I can invest my money into you, right? To share my own story, I remember there was an industry, I'm not going to go into details, but there was an industry I was looking to break into a couple of years back. And for 3 years consistently, I fought to be in the presence of some of these big people, right? And I really fought hard. I tried every trick in the book to try and get into their spaces and to just talk to them and for them to provide me the opportunity to do so. And I remember failing all the time and just failing to get to them. And the way that I ended up succeeding was so different from what I was trying. So I meet someone and he tells me that he needs someone who can play guitar. I'm like, oh, okay, I can play guitar. What do you need from me? I meet up with this person and we start talking, and with us talking, we start talking about business, right? We start talking about business and our talk just becomes more interesting for me. And then he asks me what I do and I tell him. And then he gets interested, like, oh, okay, that is awesome. And he says, I know such and such people, and I'm like, those are the people, or that's the company I've been trying to get into all this time, and I couldn't, right? And he knew big people within that space, and he said he can link me up with those people. And at the place, I thought my life had been changed. My life is gonna be so great now after this. So I thank this gentleman, and I really appreciated the opportunity, to stand before these people and to present what I had. I get there, then the other things that I had to have ready. Number two, the things I had to do, right? And I remember this well because at the time I was close to writing my neonatology exam. When opportunities come and you don't say, Ish, I'm still busy with my exams. Let's talk after the exam. You can't say that. So I remember these things we discussed closer to when I had to write my neonatology exam. And I remember thinking to myself, I've spent so many years trying to meet with these people, only to realize after I've spoken with them that I was not prepared to meet with them. I was not ready to meet with them. I didn't have the capacity to deliver what they wanted and at the same time continue with my studies, you know. And it was a realization to me that we spend so much time, or really I spend so much time looking for opportunities instead of preparing for opportunities, that when I have to come closer to an opportunity, it finds me prepared. And you find that that's the issue for most of us, especially if we really didn't focus well in school. And that's why I'm saying school is necessary for me, and it's the best place for me, at least, to prepare yourself, to increase your capacity, to increase your discipline, right? Because now what we do is we end up trying to build our capacity, and we end up trying to build this discipline with regards to our careers. And you find that you end up getting a bad name, you end up getting a bad reputation, because you were building these things that you were supposed to already have, or already be close to mastering them when you're in that field. And that's what we usually do. You find that the things that are supposed to lift you, you end up getting a bad reputation in that business. And you find that the people who don't want to work with you anymore, not because you're not good at what you're doing, no, but because you're not prepared really to take on the chance, the opportunity at hand. One other story I'd like to mention, I always mention this story when I talk about these things, because her story always motivates me, right? To kind of end it on a good note. There's a student I know, just to share the details. I'm sitting with her. We're at the study area, right? We are cross nighting that day. And I remember around about 5 a.m. we start talking, we're tired. 5 a.m. we start talking, and it comes to my attention that she was one of the top students in the country. And like, wow, she pulls up pictures, and she was on that broadcast that happens at the beginning of the year for matrics, where the Minister of Education is there and they announce people, and she was there, and she shows me pictures, she shows me videos, and I'm now intrigued, because when I was intrigued, I was really studying people who were making it, and I was lucky enough to be around medical students, to be around a lot of people who have excelled academically. So I started asking her, man, how did she get so great? And her story is simple. It's just that she had two older sisters who were really doing great in school, and that just motivated her. And what she did then is that in grade 8, she did grade 8 and grade 9's work. So this is her telling me. In grade 9, she did grade 9, she revised grade 9's work and did grade 10's work. In grade 10, she revised grade 10's work and then did grade 11's work. In grade 11, she did grade 11 work and then did grade 12 work. And when she was in grade 12, she did grade 12 and took some modules with UNISA. And she also authored a book, right? And then you come to matric and you find that she's top in the country. And when you study, what really made her to be so top was not that she was so smart. Excuse me. It's because at a young age, right, from grade 8, as early as grade 8, she was already trying to increase her capacity by doing 2 grades work within 1 year. And you find that the capacity increased, the discipline increased, the skill of studying increased, and all of that. And she built that over the years. And when it was grade 12, the great results she got was not just a reflection of how smart she was, but it was a reflection of what she was doing behind the scenes for long periods of time. And this is why even when she got here, she was excelling. She's working now. So I don't want to say the name because I don't really have consent to share the story yet. But she's finished now. She's a doctor. So for me, school is important, not just for the educational stuff, but for actually building capacity. This is with regards to anything you want to do, right? You build capacity outside of the career choice that you actually want to be in, to avoid reputation and all of those things. but you build the capacities. And when you step into what you really want to do, it finds you having capacity to do work. You have discipline, you have time management skills, and all of those things I believe that are better gotten through school. Now, the journey to really do that is a hard one, right? And that's the not so nice part about trying to increase the capacity. And that's why I'm saying school is really the place to go through all of that frustration, to go through all of that thriving, to go through all of that trying, right, to increase your capacity, because it is really hard. And not that it ends in school, but the best place to start building these things, for me at least, I believe, are in school, right? So if you are in school and you find that you're not as disciplined as you'd like to, you find that you don't manage your time as you'd like to, you look at your marks and you find that they're really not as great as you'd like to, right? One of the things you have to do yourself is to put yourself under submission to certain rules that you might have for yourself, right? To build that capacity, to build that work ethic, to build that time management skills. And that will take a long time. It'll take a long time. It will be very hard. But in the long term, that's when you'll see the results. And this is really the hard thing about us, especially as young people. It may be hard for some of us to think long term, but I do believe that it's necessary. And should you be interested in working on these things, I suggest that you work on them at a young age and keep working on them and stay in that struggle of trying to work in these things. And one day you will thank yourself. I hope this video has helped in someone. Thank you for watching.